Welcome everybody to another episode of Close the Gap Podcast. I'm your host, JR. Y'all know the vibes. If you guys like it, hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the done button. Let me know what you guys think about the podcast. Let me know how y'all feel. Again, appreciate the love and support everybody's been showing me. But today is a very special episode. The gentleman to the left of me, he was the best not the best person. You are the best person. Let me stop fronting. But you're the one that spearheaded a movement, a name change of the biggest street in Richmond, Virginia. You changed the Boulevard to Arthur Ashe Boulevard.
Correct.
Knowing you for about a year throughout the project, I've known you to be professional, focused, just a good person to be around. And, man, I could say a lot more, but I don't want to size your head up.
It is.
But, ladies and gentlemen, this is David Harris. I want you guys to be excited about this podcast because we're about to go into some deep stuff. Again, this is special because I was honored to be a part of the project, and now to be able to talk to you after the fact about it, let people know outside of Richmond, Virginia, really what this was about, and that's very important. But before we jumped into the questions. Tell the people a little bit about you, man. What's your origins? Who is David Harris?
David Harris, born and raised right here in Richmond. Grew up in Henrico County in the original Glen Allen. And where the train rolls through about 8:30 every evening. Then you know it's time to go home. Just a very good neighborhood that we lived in was humble.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was predominantly black neighborhood, but we did have some other races in the neighborhood.
Right.
So we had a good mixture.
Yeah.
Where I grew up in Henrico County, and so with that being said, I've been here in Richmond ever since.
Okay.
So I run a business here with my father, which is called Liquid Incorporated. We are a site work contractor, so anything dealing with the infrastructure, from the ground down, we'll put our fingers in and see what we can accomplish.
So that's what you were doing before you spearheaded the project?
That's right.
Okay.
That and volunteering for an organization called Metro Richmond Tennis Club, church activities, which is Fifth Baptist on Cary Street, actually, and host of other little things that I do, play golf, sort of, kind of.
Better than me. I don't even touch that sport.
Yeah. Played a little team tennis and what else? What else do I have on my plate?
So you play tennis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you explain to the audience who Arthur Ashe is for you? Who is he in your life?
All right, for me, he's my mother's brother, which makes him my uncle.
Okay.
And so that's
who he is to
can't
you.
get any closer than that.
Yeah, right.
So
what type of memories did you grow up with him?
Well, considering that he was always traveling.
Right. Facts. Right.
So there was always, I can honestly say, there was always, I guess in today's time, there was always constant communication.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing every day or whatever, but we always kept in touch through family. Kept in touch with what I was doing and what he was doing.
Right.
I didn't know everything he was doing, but most of the big stuff. But when we got together, it was just like regular family time.
Bet. All right. And for those that don't know who Arthur Ashe is, and if you was living under a rock, or maybe you're not into sports, I guess the best way to describe Arthur Ashe is one of the best tennis players that probably ever played the game.
Yeah.
It's not really in my opinion. He's won Wimbledon.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
US Open, right? He's won a few different tournaments.
Yep.
You know, rising to the ranks, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he one of the first African Americans that won one of those tournaments?
Male, yes.
Male tournaments,
Yes.
right? Which one was that?
Which was Wimbledon.
When was it?
Yeah.
Right. So again, for those that don't know, do your Googles. You know, get some more info on it. But he was a legend, and still is considered, you know, one of the best. Unfortunately, he's not here with us. But again, there's not a lot of people that did what he was doing. A philanthropist, right?
Right.
Can't even
right.
say that word, but I practiced that word so many times.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm glad I got that one out.
Yeah.
But okay, I just want to give people an insight, some context on who Arthur Ashe is. So, I mean, let's jump on some of the name change.
Yes.
Okay. I think am I right? But the street is right next to or goes into a park that he wasn't allowed to play in.
That's what's said, yes.
Okay.
The park, which is at the end of Arthur Ashe Boulevard. And, yeah, he was part of one of the ones that helped integrate the park.
Okay.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So, and part of that full circle piece is that they came back and they played the first Davis Cup match there and won, which is very interesting.
Oh yeah. You said
You know,
that.
you go from not being able to play there
Right.
to bringing Davis Cup, which is one of the biggest team tennis sports,
And being able to get in
world.
there. Right.
and
Right.
making it happen in your own hometown.
I love that, man, and that was one of the biggest reasons why I was one of the reasons why I was honored to be a part of the project in the very beginning. Because I remember being in high school and reading the Arthur Ashe book.
Right.
You know, to be honest, I think that was my only book that I read in high school. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I read it and had the audio, but at that time it wasn't a CD; it was still the tape deck. You know what I'm saying? So but learned a lot about him and the struggle. So that's just dope, just to even hear about that, right?
Yeah,
But can you explain the name change and what it did for the community and your family?
wow. For the community, I believe what we did was, I think it was probably one of the most major things that's happened socially in quite some time.
Right, I agree.
So far as especially giving us a national spotlight, and prayerfully we've gone global with it at some point, somehow, in some way. But just from a positive vibe, a positive thing, it's probably one of the greatest things we've done in quite some time.
Right.
And you know, Richmond's known for a lot of stuff, but this one here is, you know, this is about us being able to show that, one, we're about change.
Mm-hmm.
Two, we're about growth.
Right.
Not just economically, but socially. And three, we are about, full-on inclusiveness.
Yeah.
And so, with that happening for all over the world, you know, Richmond has to make sure that we're poised and ready to take on those challenges that the world's looking at also.
Yeah, yeah.
So from, man, I tell you what, it's so much of it sinks in and comes back to you. But I think from a family standpoint, we also were able to say that there are other ways to know about him and know what he stood for and how he went about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than just him playing sports, but you know, the fact that he fought against apartheid, and you know, Nelson Mandela, he fought to get him out.
Right.
And so, you know, all the things that he saw, especially from the educational level, he knew that, you know, how important children were and that investment in our kids, how much investment in kids is important.
Right.
Because if we don't,
that's our future. Right?
that's our future. And if you really want to think about it, that's who's going to be taking care of you in the nursing home if you make it that far.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, that's absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? And because you don't know, the next student could be the next president, the next nurse or the doctor taking care of you.
Make a decision.
You know, and if we're giving them shitty education, guess what we're gonna get?
You're gonna get some terrible care.
Right, it's a terrible care.
Terrible care.
So I do have a question. What made a difference? What's the major difference that you see from '93, right, when they tried to do the name change, and '03 when they tried to do the name change again? What do you feel was the difference now? And let me make some context, because how far are we removed right now from the celebration? 2 months?
No, we're almost about 3 months out.
3 months.
Yeah.
So to give y'all some context, where the celebration already happened, the name change already happened 3 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So So what did you feel like there was the difference between '93 and '03 to now? What was?
Man, attitudes.
Whose attitudes? People's
attitudes.
All right.
Time, education,
Right.
and technology
Technology did play a big part.
played a huge part.
All right. And we're gonna get into that a little bit, but I mean, some of that is because of the social media, right? Because
That's right.
we were able to integrate not just Richmond,
That's right.
but we was able to have a conversation through social media with everybody around the world. You know, whoever we were able to tag with the hashtag Arthur Ashe and,
That's right.
and a bunch of other hashtags that we were using at that time, because we were using that type of campaign to get the voice. And you were seeing,
Absolutely.
right, the conversations that was
Yeah.
happening, not just from Richmond, but to your point, technology it helped
A great deal.
a great deal. Because in '93,
Oh,
we ain't had that.
No, we didn't have any.
'03, not too much. People wasn't jumping on the face. I think it was still MySpace. Maybe.
Right,
I don't
yeah,
know.
it probably is. Yeah.
Right?
Was Justin Timberlake owns that still, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He making that dough. Y'all, but I got a question for you. You promised your aunt something. You said if it gets ugly,
That's right.
it's over with.
That's right.
What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that was that if people chose to bring a negative light to the situation,
Right.
because of their beliefs or because of how they felt, I wasn't going to be about that, because that's not a time that we need right now.
Right.
We've already got enough of that going on.
That's a fact.
And so for me, it was about, if you're going to, because, foremost, I was about benefiting the kids.
Okay.
So kids don't need to see that.
Very true.
They need to know that people are able to be civil, and people are able to formulate an opinion without being oppressive to another person,
Right.
Ridiculing somebody else,
Right.
but being able to demonstrate that you can discuss out your issues.
And I still remember our conversations that we had in the beginning, right? Because in the beginning, we were in Don Treese's kitchen.
That's right.
And the first time I met you and we really got to talking, you always mentioned the kids.
Yep.
What is our future? This is going to let the future know that people do change.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because if people look up the history of Richmond wasn't always giving people of color a lot of love. You know, and some may argue that they still don't. But you see, with the name change,
right.
To your point,
right.
People are starting to have an open mind, right? Starting to understand one another as much as they want to understand,
Exactly.
Which is cool for me because I love that.
Yeah.
So speaking of understanding, how did that convo go with Kim Gray? Shout out to Kim Gray.
Yes.
Was she down from the go for the name change?
I would say yes.
Okay.
She didn't tell me no.
So off top. So she was a go with it.
And the fortunate piece is that the area that the street runs through is a growing area, and they were about transforming the space also.
Right.
Because Scott's Addition has a history that is known that if you were a black man and you worked in Scott's Addition, you needed to be out of there before the sun went down. Because supposedly the story is told that there was a group of gentlemen that would patrol the streets
Right.
of Scott's Addition. And if you were caught walking, they would apprehend you and if they chose so, they would.
Wait, hold on, slow down. So you meant apprehend, put you in cuffs because you was walking down the street?
I'm not gonna say they would put you in cuffs.
Okay.
They would. It said that they would essentially kidnap you, beat you,
All right.
beat you up, to within a couple of inches of your life, possibly, maybe not. And then they would take you outside of Scott's Addition, drop you off in the corner, and wait for your family to come get you.
It was like that?
It was like that.
Dang.
So it was like if you worked in there and you were in there late, you better just stay. You might as well just stayed inside the business and slept that night, so you can make sure you can return to work the next day.
Shit. That's deep.
So like I said, that's a story that's been told that
Right.
I've read about, and unfortunately, a man just trying to provide for his family, regardless of his color of his skin, is major because
Yeah.
he's got children now, he's
Right.
got a family to take care of.
Right.
But these few folks felt that wasn't important.
See, and okay, and we're talking about how many years ago?
Oh, that was you're thinking way back.
Wait, right.
Yeah.
So now, again, going back to the movement, to the Arthur Ashe, because it is a movement.
Yep.
Period. Let's just call it what it is. It is a
Mhm.
movement. It's not again. It's a fresh of breath air.
Absolutely.
To realize that some, right? Because there's some don't have to deal with that anymore.
Right.
Keyword some.
Right.
But we're not gonna go into that because that's a whole nother podcast.
Right.
Okay. But I'm glad to see things are slowly starting to move forward. But can you help explain to the people the process on how what was the process to get the name change?
Process was huge. One, I had to have conversations prior to anything even being announced. So
With whom?
I had a conversation with the mayor,
Okay.
Mayor LeVar Stoney.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to him. I had a conversation with the Madam CAO, Selena Cuffy Glenn.
Okay.
And of course, I had conversations with Kim Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, I had a private conversation with somebody else.
Right.
She wants to continue to remain nameless, but
Yep.
so she was a big influencer and helped me, gave me the initial guide.
Okay.
And so, with that being said, we had some conversations. Then I had a small conversation with the Scott's Addition Business Association executive board.
Okay.
So they gave me when I went and talked to them, they gave me their blessing right away,
That's
which
nice.
was really cool.
Yeah. Right.
Because those guys, that group is very, very influential in the city of Richmond right now.
And that's where you met Sandy, correct?
I met Sandy through them, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So, and we, I went to that meeting. Then I went to their one of their big meetings where they had everybody from the association come in, and that's when the news got a hold of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, you were everywhere.
Yeah. And then, I I wasn't expecting the news to get a hold of that one that day. So
Somebody put them off. Somebody tipped them off.
Actually, they got lucky because they were there getting information in regards to the shootings that had occurred at the nightclub there.
Oh, okay, right.
Which is unfortunate. And that nightclub has since been shut down. Has since shut down, and I think they're now doing something else for that space. But so then at that point, that's when I called my man Baxter Bail up and said, "Hey, dude, we need to do a T-shirt or something." And so we really got it. It was on and popping at that point.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the T-shirt, the logo. Explain the logo.
The logo is that was designed based off the angle of the boulevard.
Okay.
So if you kind of put the logo over the street,
yeah.
if you visualize it over your Google map or whatever you're looking at, that's
dope.
That's the logo.
Yeah.
And so really strong colors.
Yeah.
Some dynamic cats with helped designed it.
Yeah.
Dontrese Brown, Andre Johnson, of course Baxton Baylor, and I just put my stamp on it and said roll with it.
Yeah, no, that the logo was dope because I still remember walking around, and there was an Arthur Ashe shirt that was made.
Yep.
With him standing there, and the logo. Yeah, some of the shirts were fresh. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie.
And we're working on more people. We're working on more.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people have asked.
Yep.
And I can personally say, if it's okay with you, some of the ones that may be rolling out are dope.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yo, those are fire, and I think everybody's gonna be super happy.
Super excited.
Excited to see those. So I got a few more questions for you to help understand more of the movement of what went on. What kind of push did you guys do in order to get the community behind the name change? Because I know it wasn't a community vote, right? But you still, and I know, especially you wanted to get the community support, regardless if they didn't vote for it, right? So help explain to me some of the push. What type of push were you doing to get their support?
So the push was, the main push was we scheduled a public question and answer time. And that was done at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And
shout out to them because they helped out.
Yeah, they were one of those initial supporters right away.
Right.
Like, no question, we're behind you 100%. So that was our initial push. Unfortunately, we had a fake hurricane and got pushed.
Good old Virginia weather.
Good old Virginia weather. We got pushed to October, but we still had it. Folks still showed up and spoke their piece.
Right.
Which was a good thing. So part of my push with that and how we were getting back to the people and getting traction and getting attention was I challenged, especially those who opposed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I asked them. I said, look, if you got a better idea, give it to me.
Okay.
So, because my whole thing it was about impacting the children some type of way.
Right.
Even by saying, hey, let's tear down the Arthur Ashe Center and redevelop it so that we can generate some tax revenue for the city.
Right.
It's a start.
It is.
It wasn't about solving everything.
Right.
My greatest thing was that I've always heard in the news, somebody always says, what about the schools? I'm like, man, are you really going to keep asking that question? You haven't done anything.
Right.
You haven't
I
offered up any ideas.
It's always that. What about this?
What about the schools? It's an excuse.
It is an excuse, 100%.
Because now, if you notice, once we changed the name and street, guess what happened? They fully funded the school system this year.
Talking.
Which is important.
Right.
Which is huge. I'm not saying we had influence on doing that.
Right.
But maybe we brought a little more attention to the situation.
Exactly.
And helped it out.
Yeah, maybe some ears perked up, some eyes opened up.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So like I said, until it's the interesting thing is a lot of people are afraid to get involved in the process. And so, but in reality, those who are up there making decisions want people to strategically, I can say that now, but anyway, to strategically get involved and help them out.
Yeah. Right.
They don't, I mean, if you've got good ideas, help execute them. I'm not saying ours was the greatest idea, but it was a risky idea. But we tried it, and look what we turned out.
Key word, you tried.
Yeah.
Right, and that's and we are doing an Arthur Ashe Close the Gap special podcast.
Yep.
But in my regular Close the Gap podcast, that's what I like to tell the audience that are watching. You have an idea, try it.
That's right.
What's the problem with trying it? Because circling back to the youth, we're showing them that it was risky.
It was risky,
but it was an effort.
Yeah.
We tried, and look what happened when you tried, and it didn't happen overnight, right? I mean, this was a year plus of a push.
Right.
It didn't just say, let me just make an idea, let me just change the name, then boom, it happens. So that's what I like to share with my audience is,
it takes work.
It does take work. this shit ain't easy. No matter what you do,
Nope.
you know, it don't matter if you play sports, do business.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But the idea, don't just sit on the idea.
Right.
Execute on the idea.
Absolutely.
And you might fumble, right? I mean, we didn't. No one in our team had all the answers,
Absolutely.
right? But we might have fumbled a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We didn't quit. We didn't get frustrated. But that's what, and I'm glad you said that, because again, circling it back to the youth, it's for them to see that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of them and a lot of even adults forget that. Even now, you're on social media. You have an idea and you decide, you know what? I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna go out here. And what do you get? You get the trolls. You get the haters,
Yep.
and they're gonna say, "Nah, this ain't gonna work. You suck." Boom, boom, boom. And then what happens? They curl up and they don't do it.
Exactly.
Right? Could you imagine? Because there were pushback from the community. Could you imagine that happening to the movement? To Arthur Ashe just saying, if some few people saying this sucks,
Right.
don't do it.
Right.
Who cares? They right. Let's not do it.
Yeah.
What type of example is that? That's soft.
There is none. Yeah.
There is
Right.
none example, right? So, and again, I appreciate you even mentioning that, because I hope people understand that it doesn't matter how big the idea is.
That's right.
It's about executing the idea,
That's right.
and it doesn't matter how old you are or what your idea is.
Right.
Just
Right.
get up and do something.
Yeah. And the other aspect of it is that for quite some time, I would imagine to say that those who went through the civil rights movement and helped push that piece, I think, just in my opinion,
Yeah.
I think they have been waiting to see what we were going to do, our generation is going to do towards what we're going to do for social justice and make some changes.
Right.
Because we're still on that cusp of, we know about the discrimination piece, but now we've got all this technology that we've helped garner and usher and
Right.
lift. How can we, what are we going to do to use it and propel us forward? So,
I like that you mentioned that.
yeah, we have to.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
There you go.
But during your speech at the VFMA,
Mhm.
you even said, and I'm paraphrasing, discrimination, lack of investment in our children, education, and people is bankrupt.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's fraudulent activity.
I love it. Talk your shit. Explain it.
What that's about is, as you can tell, we have a changing landscape. From the Me Too movement, which there's a lot of stuff that has been allowed for ages that shouldn't have been allowed,
Mm-hmm.
especially towards women. So, with that being thought, and as part of my forethought, and knowing what black men have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
what black women have gone through,
Mm-hmm.
what the Latino community is going through, and even the Asian community went through it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So, in some form or fashion, and I mean, even some Europeans that came over, I'm sure they've experienced something somehow, some way.
Right.
I mean, so what I meant by that is, it's going to eventually, continuing to invest in that type of thinking and oppression against people is going to eventually dry your bank account up. Because
Right.
at some point we're going to decide to start using the legal system
Mm-hmm.
the same way the legal system has been used against
Against
us,
us, right?
to keep us incarcerated,
Quiet,
keep us quiet,
controlled.
Yeah. So it's a controlling like behavior that really can't be supported anymore, because our communities and our economies are global now. So
Right. And then we hold, and we have the spending power.
Right.
Right? Blacks and browns.
Mhm.
Regardless of what people say, we help these businesses grow.
Right.
Right?
Right.
For me, I always think about what happens if we stop buying Jordans. And for me, that's going to be the hardest thing in the world because I love my checks. But let's just say what happens if we stop buying Jordans.
Ooh,
That's a problem for them.
Nike's gonna be upset.
Nike's going to be upset. But you see the power that we have, right? And so that's why I loved it. And that's why I wanted you to talk about that statement that you made, because that's strong. So that whole mentality of we don't need the blacks or the browns. We don't need you for to make money for a brand or make money for us. That's completely wrong.
Completely wrong. Yes.
And if you're not giving back to the children,
right? Who are you giving to?
Who are you going to give it to? And you're hindering the children because you are limiting their potential in the education, right? Taking away certain curriculum, music, old ass books, facilities. That's hindering, and it's over. And I loved it because again, the name change is just not a name change. It's just not because let's just name a different name because we're done with the Boulevard.
Right, a street with no name. That now has a name.
That now has a name, right? It wasn't about that. It was about opening up people's eyes to realize that it's different now.
Yep.
Right? Arthur Ashe did everything that he did to bring people together. And now it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So it's very interesting because now I'm having conversations with people on the street that I would have never had 10 years ago.
See, I was going to ask you that. How are those conversations going? Do you feel those conversations about change, about education, about our children, are they getting louder in your opinion, or have they quieted down after the whole celebration? Because you know how that is. The hype gets real.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to talk about it, and then just like everything else, especially in the news, it dies off.
Yeah.
What do you feel? How do you feel things are going right now? Because you were about to say that you were having conversations with people you didn't ever thought you ever have.
So what's interesting is that I'm running into folks that I'm finding out we have more allies than enemies.
Okay.
And so, and a lot of the conversations I will definitely say have been with Caucasian Americans. And considering, although there's a narrative put out that, whatever it is, that for some,
right.
But for many of them, they're like, he was somebody I followed. He was, they liked his thought process,
right?
How he went about doing things, and they've even said, "How was that process really like for you?"
Mm-hmm.
and interested in how they can do something. Like one gentleman I just had a conversation with, he's like, tell me a little bit about that because I'm thinking about I want to put a mural up on the bridge. I was like, hey man, dig in, raise some money, and go about doing it. He's like, it's just a bridge. He said, it'd be nice to put something on it to change it,
right?
Change the look. I was like, great idea, dope idea.
Yeah,
and so I think that's probably a conversation I probably would have never had 10 years ago.
Right. No one's really going to do that.
Nobody's thinking about it.
No one's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Or if they're thinking about it, they're not going to share it.
Right. So the opportunity for that immediate spontaneous collaboration has been pretty cool lately.
That's dope.
So, but yeah, like I said, it's good to see that there are people out there that are truly positive about liking to see the change, especially with the signs on the highway.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw that, I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, I was a part of that.
Yeah.
I was, I think my mother-in-law was in town during the celebration, and she, we didn't talk about it. A lot of the moves that we were making were stayed in house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when we were there at the celebration, I was like, when we were there at the celebration, she asked, what's happening?
Right.
Told her. She came back like a few weeks later. And by that time, the sign was up. Oh,
we know what's happening.
Okay, now it's real, right? I thought that was the dopest thing for me, especially seeing a picture of you, and you had sent to the group chat,
right?
And you don't realize how big those signs actually are, right? Yeah. It just like makes you look like you're the smallest person.
Exactly.
Oh, but that was dope when you saw the Arthur Ashe Boulevard. But hey, man, can you share? So what's next for David Harris?
Man. What's next for me? We, well, a lot of folks don't know. Well, so out of this, a couple things have been born.
Okay.
One, the O'Brien Foundation was born. New logo's just been approved.
Nice.
So we got some branding now.
All right.
Secondly,
Like I might get an exclusive.
We launched. We were able to launch. We're looking to launch a marketing branding firm.
Nice.
Which is Brown Baylor.
Okay.
And which is one of the dopest things that's come out of this. And as you know, a lot of people don't know that. This is spearheaded by 4 black males out of Richmond, Virginia, that have a vision that's greater than just the black community. It's for everybody.
Right.
So,
and I think that's important for you to mention that.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't see the work that brown people do, But we're contributing everywhere,
Yes, we are.
And we've always contributed for years, and centuries.
That's a fact.
And so those 2 things we're jumping off with, and one other, I'm headed to Africa on the 27th of September, and I'm going to work on an opportunity for the O'Brien Foundation to go global with that foundation work. So
all my Africans out there, look out.
Right.
This man's going to come through.
We're headed to Nigeria.
There you go. All my Nigerians, stand up. Love it.
Yep. So,
man, I definitely appreciate your time.
Hey, man, I appreciate letting me have you.
Thank you for coming on and sharing, what you've done, especially for the community, for Richmond.
Yep.
And thank you for sharing with everybody, what's coming up, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I definitely want to tell you, man, thank you for coming on with us, because, we started with $0.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And
paid in shirts.
We paid in shirts. You got your shirt.
Got mine.
Yep. You got yours. Sandy got hers.
Yep.
So
I had a bag by the way, but fuck it. We're not going to mention that.
But, man, like I said, man, I appreciate you greatly, because I know that you know stuff that you knew a whole genre of the social media world that I have no clue.
Appreciate you.
Because I know a little bit. I don't know a lot.
Right.
Because, I'm entrenched in running a family business.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And all of us have an expertise, and all of us have an avenue of knowledge that we have to share and collaborate and get with.
That's important, right?
Because you can't do it all by yourself.
No. I agree.
That's the main thing. That was one of the most important things, because I realized, I said, I'm going to bring the best people that I know. I'm going to let them lead me while I help lead from the back. And that's how you get it done.
Agreed. And I want to have you back on the show to discuss your entrepreneur, your business.
Oh, yeah.
And help the audience out there, again, get a mindset on what you do in your business. Because maybe there's somebody out there that can get value. And again, that's all I'm trying to do is provide value, to the listeners and to the audience out there. Yeah. So again, man, I appreciate it. Tell other people, actually, before we rock, how they can find you, social media, or whatever.
Yeah, you can find me Instagram, Facebook. Although I've got a clandestine Instagram.
Right.
However, but you can find me. You can get to me through the Arthur Ashe Boulevard one.
There you go.
So and
of
course I'm on Facebook, under David Harris, and of course you can plug that Arthur Ashe Boulevard piece there too. So
yeah, definitely check out that website, man. Arthur Ashe.
Yep, that's still up and running. Yeah.
It's still up. So, beautiful site.
Yep. So hopefully you'll be able to get me through the O'Brien Foundation next.
That's it. All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in again to another episode of Close the Gap. Y'all know the vibes. Appreciate it. Peace.